are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Good evening. Yes, I'm Alex Armstrong. I'm standing in for Patrick Christys while he is in Wales. And of course, this is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
The double standards and hypocrisy of the BBC are absolutely astonishing.
You're lying. You sound
I'm really, until you apologise for all of your output, your appalling output, at the same time that I'm accused of saying these things which I deny, I'm not speaking to you. All right?
Nigel Farage has unleashed his inner Trump, hasn't he? He's gone on the attack against the BBC, calling out their sheer hypocrisy. Plus,
you came over on a small boat. Am I right about that?
Yeah. Oh, there is question time drama tonight. The BBC gives airtime to illegal migrants during their immigration special. Zia Youssef is going to join me to talk about that. And
the Brexit vote was a fair, democratic expression, and I will always respect that.
The Justice Secretary David Lammy has broken ranks with the Prime Minister as Brexit causes ruptures within the Labour Party. Might it take them down too as it took the Tories down? Meanwhile, in Ireland, Spain and the Netherlands have all decided to boycott the Eurovision after the EBU allows Israel to compete. Will politics kill the Eurovision and might we win it?
I was blamed for a market crisis that was not my fault. The deep state and their allies in the media and politics tried to destroy me because I challenged their decades-long failure.
Liz Truss unleashed. The former Prime Minister is set to launch her own TV show, a new home of the counter-revolution, she calls it. We have so much to go through tonight, and joining me throughout the evening, Reform UK candidate Orla Minahane, former Labour advisor Matthew Larzer, and GB News contributor and comedian Stephen N. Allen. But before we get stuck in, let's get your news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you. The top stories: the Conservatives are vowing to fight the government's decision to delay new mayoral elections every step of the way. The votes, originally due next May in Essex, Norfolk and Suffolk, Hampshire and the Solent and Sussex and Brighton, have been pushed back to 2028. The government says local reorganisation isn't ready and the new regions must be set up properly to deliver the powers they've been promised. Kemi Badenoch accused Labour of stalling because it fears the result.
This is yet another example of Labour not being ready for government.
This reorganisation is taking too long. I've been a local government minister, and there have been situations where you needed to postpone a year. So we'll have an extra year just so that we can be ready. This is now out of control. They need to have these elections. They should not be denying people democracy.
Nigel Farage says Reform UK would have won every mayoral election that Labour has delayed.
Then there is, of course, one very big reason why these elections should not go ahead, and there's no prizes for guessing, but it is an electoral calculus put out their figures just a couple of hours ago that Reform would have won all 4 of these contests and would have won them quite comfortably.
The Prime Minister says the public inquiry into the death of Dawn Sturgis is clear that the moral responsibility lies with President Putin and provides further evidence of the shocking and reckless hostile activity on UK soil. The report found the operation to poison double agent Sergei Skripal in Salisbury was authorised at the highest level. Russian military intelligence agents acted on direct instructions before recklessly discarding the perfume bottle that killed Miss Sturgis. Investigators say her condition was unsurvivable after she unwittingly sprayed herself with the Novichok from the perfume bottle left by the Russian hit squad. Sir Keir Starmer says the inquiry shows the UK must remain vigilant to Russian threats.
It's very important that we put in the most stringent sanctions and the GRU for the first time, but it also reinforces why we need to remain vigilant to the ever-present threat that is there from Putin and from Russia. That's not just in Ukraine. In this case, the report is clear. It's on our soil. And here I am at Lossiemouth, where we've been discussing with personnel the work that they are doing to keep us safe from Russian threats, particularly in our waters.
And several countries have pulled out of next year's Eurovision Song Contest after Israel's participation was confirmed. Ireland, the Netherlands, Spain and Slovenia say they'll boycott the competition after the General Assembly in Geneva today to discuss the future of the competition. Irish national broadcaster RTE said it won't broadcast or take part in the contest, describing its participation as unconscionable given the appalling loss of lives in Gaza. In a statement, the EBU said members had shown clear support for reforms to reinforce trust and protect neutrality. And those are the latest headlines. For now, it's over to Alex.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. I'm looking after the show while Patrick is doing that fantastic work of journalism in Wales. Let's run through those headlines with you. Let's start with the Metro. Welcome to the Quake District. The Independent. Putin personally ordered Novichok attack on Salisbury. The Guardian. Farage hits out as fresh claims of vindictive teenage racism emerge. The Express. Fears of worst flu wave to strike NHS this winter. The Telegraph. Lammy breaks ranks on Brexit. The Sun. I'm in therapy over TV acts. The Eye. Ignorant to call Labour the party of welfare, claims Cabinet Minister. Daily Mail. Farage, it ain't half hot, mum. Attack on BBC double standards. The Times. Deal to give frozen £8 billion from Russia to Ukraine. The Mirror. Dawn's blood on his hands. Oh, right. Look, joining me to go through, and there's loads more on these front pages. I know it looks very inquiry heavy. There is loads more to dig into on some of these sub-stories, and we will be talking about that. But to go through all of this, I've got my fantastic panel. Reform UK candidate Orla Minahane, former Labour advisor Matthew Laza, and GB News contributor and comedian Stephen N. Allen. Welcome, 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 everybody. Right. Should we get stuck into David Lammy first? Should we? Because I have been saying this.
You say that with a sense of relish.
No, I do, because I'm going to be proven right. I'm going to be proven right on this issue, because I think your party, Matthew, is gearing up to wave the Brexit card in front of us before the next election. I think you're going to get so unpopular, you're going to go, what is the last thing we can do to try and bring some votes back? And that is a referendum, a second referendum, which is what Keir Starmer wanted all along on the EU.
So I think you're sort of right, but your timetable is wrong.
OK.
I think the big issue will be whether Labour goes into the next election specifically asking, offering the British people, saying if you vote Labour, you will have, I don't think it'll be a second referendum, it might be something like joining the customs union or a closer relationship. There'll be a lot of pressure for that. All those Green voters, all those Liberal voters want it. You know, Labour's got these huge 400 MPs who represent such different sorts of constituencies. Places like Bury St Edmunds, posh places it never had before, and places like Merthyr. It's going to have to make a decision about which ones he wants to save, because at the moment, if you try and save everything, you may not manage to do that.
Oh, this is it, Steve. David Lammy. So this is the story, just for the benefit of everyone watching at home. David Lammy, and listening, has suggested that rejoining the EU customs union would boost economic growth amid mounting calls from within Downing Street to undo Brexit.
So it's probably not what they want him to say out loud.
No.
But then again,
well, it is David Lammy.
It's not like David Lammy to make a mistake. So far in the last couple of weeks, we've had ending fair trials, basically, and saying that Bill Cosby was his role model. Wow, this guy's in charge of justice. So that's set the scene nicely. Do you know what, though? On this one, I think you're right with your suspicion, but I think you kind of have to slightly suck it up. Because Brexit wasn't really just about customs union, was it? It was more about control, borders, not slowly creeping towards some kind of federalisation. And so what you effectively voted for was for the Parliament of this country to be in charge of what we do, so our Parliament would be in charge of making that decision to join the customs union. I'm not enough of an economist to know whether it would help or not. Neither is David Lammy, so that's fair.
Well, that makes, four of us, because neither am I, and I don't think Orla is either.
No, I'm not. I can tell you one thing. This undo Brexit was never done, right?
Yeah,
it has never been done. So, again, and we've had this conversation earlier, unless you do something and do it properly, as the British voter voted for, if you do it properly and then it fails, then you're in a position to say, OK, let's relook at this. But if you've never delivered on your promise, we're not in that position, and I think it's outrageous that we're even talking about this.
Yeah, there was the unintended consequences, of course. And when you do something that big, and we've been joined at the hip with the EU for so long, there's unintended consequences, isn't there? And this is the problem, is that we kind of had an idea. We had an idea. As you said, Steve, we wanted to, and that phrase, take back control, was very important. And I think it was very important on immigration. But for me, it was very important on sovereignty. Yeah. Sovereignty was the thing for me, because at least whatever happens now is down to the people who sit in Downing Street, not down to some bureaucrat sitting in the EU.
Or down to Donald Trump.
Oh, down to Donald Trump. Not down to anybody. Listen, there's always things internationally that we can't control, Matthew, right? But at least now...
We are in NATO still, sharing our sovereignty, which I'm sure you support us being in NATO.
Of course I do, but that's a defensive military alliance, and that's kept us safe for now, well...
It's late now, I'm being cheeky.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I mean, look... I mean, we can't blame... I mean, you know, your Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, who happens to unfortunately be my Chancellor as well, I guess, she was blaming Brexit. She was blaming Nigel Farage.
Well, look, the truth of the matter is that all the evidence shows, and you might argue that it's because Brexit wasn't done in the way that some people intended, but the way it was done is that it's made us all poorer. It's made people across the country, including in Merthyr where we were earlier, but across the country poorer. What's interesting is this week,
how's it done that?
Because it all shows that the trade is down, the investment has been down over that period, etc. The key thing in terms of the politics of it we've seen twice this week in both the Mansion House speech, the Lady Mayor's banquet this week, where he's in all that gear, but also in the speeches he gave on Monday about the economy. And that's a foreign policy speech in the evening, and an economy speech in the morning. In both of them, he went further than he's gone. This is Keir Starmer's gone further than he has for a long time in terms of saying we will have the closest possible relationship. Now they're adamant that stops short of the customs union. They won't break that promise on the customs union or anything else. Before that may be a step too far before the next election, but I think there'll be huge pressure, especially if you've got the Greens and the Lib Dems still on 15% each, to be more positive about Europe in the manifesto.
Even more stressful if you're going to look like you might have to cosy up to the Liberal Democrats to prop up a government by the... That's if the polls...
They're against the family farm tax.
Well, large landowners tax. Might be some silver linings. Do you think Nigel Farage might be secretly happy if the Labour Party waived an EU referendum in front of the public at the next election? Because surely the person people would look to then is Nigel Farage.
Absolutely.
And if you are those final traditional sort of right-wing voters who are just teetering on the edge, you might go, do you know what, I need to throw my weight behind it?
Absolutely, I absolutely think so. And I think that people feel betrayed. Brexiteers, anyone who voted for Brexit feels absolutely betrayed. If you ask people, man on the street, take away the economics, take away, you know, the trade, etc., and you ask people on the street, why did you vote Brexit? They will say to get control of our borders. And since that, we have had absolutely the opposite. It is completely out of control.
But isn't that exactly what we should be thinking about this story? They're not talking about borders. In fact, we seem to be getting upset when they're talking about customs union. Any conversation I've had in a pub, there was no emotion when people were talking about customs union. They were
people
talking
don't know what the
about
customs union is.
Well, exactly. People were getting angry about immigration, and then that just mathematically went huge straight after because of the way that Brexit was done. I never saw anyone get kind of all hot under the collar about the
problem with the customs union is it ties us politically, policy-wise, in so many other areas with the EU, and that means we can't strike trade deals with loads of other nations. And you said, yes, Brexit has made us poorer. That might be true economically. However, we always knew Brexit was a 20-year plan because we have to build those trade deals up. Once we tie ourselves in with the customs union, we lose that ability, don't we?
We've got a trade deal with the US. It's a pretty, it's a sticky patch.
This union deal might completely scrap it.
We don't know because we don't know also what's going to come post-Trump as well. And they're talking about the longer term. At the moment polls suggest that it won't be a Republican, but it's a long time to go. But it's interesting that other Labour senior figures like Wes Streeting have also saying that they want to. The quote from Wes Streeting here is that we should undo the economic damage done by Brexit. There's a clear push by Labour to
blame everything on Brexit.
Well, to blame, but also what you've got to remember is when you add up all the parties who were anti-Brexit in the referendum, they're still over 50% overall, and that's what Labour will be thinking: is that can you build a progressive majority?
Yeah, but poll before the Brexit referendum showed that they'd win by a landslide, and it was always wrong because Brexit people are ordinary people who don't sit online all day and take polls. They're ordinary working people.
Well, there were quite a lot of working people who were, and it's a massive generational divide as well. And a
class divide.
And a class divide. One of the things we saw is
government. Everyone's poorer. So
nice try. Not true, but nice try.
There we go. Let's get all the Brexit voters back. Orla, would you welcome another referendum, another chance?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think it's an absolute disgrace that we're even discussing this. There was a vote. It went in the way of to exit the EU for all the reasons that everybody wanted it to. It hasn't been done. We've been betrayed. To go back and say we want another referendum. I think even the people that probably, you're going to also get people in the middle who may think, do you know what, this isn't right. It just doesn't sit right that we're doing this, and you may actually lose that.
Is it?
I think a referendum is a high risk. That's why they're stopping short of it in the words that they're making.
Do you think David Lammy here has broken ranks a little bit too early?
Oh, always. If you want someone to do something wrong, it's going to be David Lammy.
Or maybe they're just happy to roll him out because then they'll all say it.
He's like the focus from something else.
If you leak it to Lammy first, he's definitely going to say it to the press, sort of thing, going right down his street.
That clip where he stood in front of the police officer saying, I haven't seen a policeman around here all day. That's the level of genius we're talking about. But I will say, you say you're offended by the idea that we're even talking about it. We're not talking about it. That's the funny thing of this story. They're not talking about another referendum. No one is. This story, even your Lammy, who doesn't know what to say and what not to say, hasn't talked about another referendum. So maybe we should not worry.
Well, I don't. I worry about everything when it comes to this government anyway, frankly, but there we go. Listen, what do you think? Do you think there should be a second referendum? I know a lot of you are also writing in about question time. Zia Youssef is going to join me very, very shortly to talk about what on earth has happened at BBC Question Time, so stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss that one. But in the meantime, it's time for a brand new Great British giveaway. It's your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. Here's the details.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. What would you say yes to? For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up, it's the moment you've been waiting for.
You came over on a small boat. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
It's madness. It's absolutely madness. What on earth is going on in BBC Question Time tonight during their immigration special? Well, Zia Youssef from Reform UK is joining me next. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
People are getting married less because, society has changed. People are simply becoming more secular. And because they're becoming more secular, they don't view that marriage is a divine religious institution. And that more and more people have turned away from God, and because they've turned away from God, they don't view, the institution that has been the bedrock of society. So society has changed. People have moved away from religion or organized religion, and they just don't view it as a bedrock of religious religious growth. People don't think getting right with the Lord Jesus or having a pastor in their life as part of their marriage. Also, younger people today care more about their careers. They care more about financial stability. They care more about having their own lives and their freedom than traditional marriage than it used to be. So it's just a big change of society today.
And Charlie Downs, does that matter? Are there negatives to being focused on career and choosing to shack up as opposed to get married in church?
Very much so. I mean, I like to think that I am slightly swimming against the tide because, there we go, I got married at the beginning of last month, and I'm 24. Aww. And the last time that the average age of marriage in this country was 24 was 60 years ago. The average age of marriage now is about 33 years old, which is a historic high. And I think this is largely because of the reasons that Pastor Mark outlined just now, which is that we don't actually understand as young people what marriage is.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, some controversy on Question Time tonight after the BBC's decision to invite several small boat migrants onto the programme. Here's what happened on that show.
To the man in the white shirt, now I know you came over on a small boat. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
What's your response to what you're hearing? Because obviously everyone is talking about people like you.
Leaving the convention doesn't just affect the migrants.
Okay.
In Northern Ireland and damage our security cooperation.
Let me ask you about your situation. I mean, since we were talking about immigration in this programme today, we thought, and we will be talking about people like you, we would see if there are, you know, 2 or 3, 4 people who wanted to come along who are in that situation.
Well, joining us now is Head of Policy at Reform UK, Zia Youssef, who was on that panel on the show. Zia, thanks for joining us this evening. What on earth were the BBC thinking putting illegal migrants on Question Time tonight? My audience is absolutely baffled.
Yeah, well, when it first sort of was clear that this was going to be an immigration special, some people on Twitter started quote tweeting the Question Time account saying, I bet they invite some illegals on. And they were obviously joking. In some cases, they were literally comedians making that joke. And then staggeringly, that happened and then some. Frankly, it was surreal. There were 2 illegal migrants who come originally by small boat. As you can see, the BBC were very open about that. One of them, their quote question was him holding his smartphone and reading out what was a statement about how important it was that the United Kingdom did not withdraw from the ECHR. I mean, I've got to laugh because I've got to say, sitting there, it was incredibly surreal. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And actually, there's some photographs now of that gentleman that suggest he was also wearing an earpiece, which suggests that should also require some investigation. I will say this, though. How on earth it can be deemed appropriate that people who broke into this country illegally should have a seat at the table in a political discussion about immigration, about illegal immigration on a BBC immigration special is so bewildering that on the car home, I genuinely had to sit there and just try to reassure myself that this did actually happen. I felt like I was on the Truman Show or something. Why are illegal migrants being placed in the audience and given the opportunity to go on soliloquies about, you know, about their stories? And I was asked by one of them, I was asked by Fiona Bruce, would you deport a man who said openly that he had come here originally from Afghanistan, obviously then come from France, which is not the same, obviously, as coming from Afghanistan, but he originally was an Afghan. He said his asylum application had been rejected in 6 other countries before coming here. Let me say that again. His asylum application had been rejected in 6 other countries. And then it was put to me, you know, would a reform government deport him? And I said, look, you know, we're always going to give it the same answer on this. If you came to this country illegally, yes, you will be deported. Absolutely. And there were sort of gasps in the audience, which is obviously, I don't know how, by the way, this is another stunning achievement from the BBC. They managed to they managed to stack an audience in Dover, of all places, a seat that looks, you know, if a general election were to happen tomorrow, I think Reform would take handily. How they managed to stack it with so many people who gave rapturous applause to Zach Palancy talking about open borders and more immigration. So the whole thing was incredibly surreal. I think it is, frankly, a scandal, all jokes aside. It is a scandal that licence fee money is being paid to bring to bear an immigration special where people who literally broke into this country are getting to air their views. What's next? Are we going to get on budget day? Is the BBC going to bring us the viewpoint of tax evaders? I don't know where we go from here.
Well, yeah, you know, Zia, I'm laughing, but I'm sort of... Just hearing you recount it is, I mean, obviously we've been doing the show tonight, so I haven't watched everything, but I've seen some of the clips. My jaw was hitting this desk, Zia, because as you correctly said, licence fee payers will not expect their people who have broken illegally into the country to be given a platform, as you said, to soliloquy, to deliver a monologue to the people watching Question Time, which I'm assuming has a very big audience still. Zia, how did it make you feel? Because you're the party that is really getting, well, saying you're going to get tough on illegal migrants. As one of your policies, mass deportations, if I'm correct. Please correct me if I'm wrong. How did it make you feel? Did it feel like a targeted thing against Reform UK? Is it some sort of BBC bias?
I mean, well, if you just watch it, and I do encourage people to watch some of the clips that are on social media. I know it can be quite painful to watch the BBC these days, but it is worth watching just so that you can realise that everything we're saying is true. I have to say, as I said, I had to really process this because I couldn't comprehend what was going on. I couldn't believe that this was happening in such an open and blatant way. And again, just going back to that point about the guy, the Iranian who was reading the statement about why Britain should leave the ECHR, at one point he started talking about the Northern Ireland Protocol. And I didn't realise that was something that was such a big issue in Iran. So it was ridiculous. I think it clearly was set up to try to put reform on the spot. And the evidence for that actually is Fiona asked me directly, well, would you deport this particular gentleman in that audience, which is obviously a very emotional appeal. And look, of course, you know, I get it. You know, these are all human beings. But ultimately, as I said in my answer, the vast majority of the people coming across the English Channel illegally are men. We know that to be true. It's a statistical fact. And if you're entering a war zone, then it's generally men first, is it not? And if you're fleeing a war zone, then it's women and children first. And that's the most obvious point. So absolutely, they must be deported. They will be deported. And by the way, I said exactly as such on the programme.
Zia, if you very briefly, if you don't mind, do you feel after what we saw this morning with the attacks on Nigel Farage by the BBC, what he's claiming are attacks on him, do you feel now that there's sort of this gathering momentum within the BBC to go after Reform UK politicians?
Look, I think for some time now there's been a very strong sense of bias. And by the way, again, so we can be subjective about this, but we can also be objective. You know, we pushed out. I was on GBNews last weekend actually talking about the fact, you know, we did this analysis of BBC reporting on local councils, and what we found was BBC were 5 times more likely to report on a Reform councillor losing the whip than a Labour or a Tory councillor, even though Tory and Labour councillors were 5 or 6 times more likely to lose the whip than Reform councillors. There have been 5 or 6 times as many instances. So you can even see in that, it looks like clearly, looking at the data empirically, it tells you the BBC is obsessed with reporting negative news about Reform councils. Now, that's not to say Reform councils should not be scrutinised. Of course, Reform must be scrutinised. BBC should scrutinise parties, but they must do so fairly and equally. And, you know, the interview from this morning, for example, where Richard Tice, I don't even want to repeat it, the things that BBC interviewer was saying about Nigel, I found it utterly disgusting, frankly, someone who considers Nigel a friend. And by the way, this is coming from somebody for whom the BBC has a special place in my heart. I grew up loving shows like The Office. I don't think any other broadcaster in the world could have made such a program. And there are so many great programs, right? The Line of Duty. But the problem is the BBC newsroom now, for some time, and indeed Match of the Day presenters, as we know, former Match of the Day presenters, have just crossed a line. And the BBC, too many people in the BBC newsroom, I think, seem to think it is their job to lecture the British public about what they should believe rather than simply reporting the news. And from what I've seen in recent weeks, and the total lack, by the way, of, I think, remorse after, for example, where they were caught bang to rights with the Trump thing. And by the way, why is it that we've been talking about the Trump thing? It's because A, whistleblower put a dossier together with the evidence, and B, we're talking about the most powerful man in the world.
Indeed,
I mean, if those 2 things were not true, we wouldn't even be talking about it. So imagine all of the things we don't hear about.
Well, Zia Youssef, thank you very much for joining me this evening. I was still in shock seeing some of those clips. That was the head of policy at Reform UK, Zia Youssef there. Let me bring it into my panel in just a second. I'm just going to read out this reply from the BBC. They've told GB News, as immigration continues to be a primary concern for people in the UK, Question Time had a special episode in Dover with panellists from across the political spectrum and a local audience with a range of views and experiences. Over 20 audience members asked questions and contributed to the debate, including 2 people with the direct experience of asylum system in the UK who have been granted refugee status. OK, on my panel now, Orla Minahane, Reform UK candidate, former Labour advisor Matthew Laza, and GB News star, comedian, contributor Steve N. Allen. Matthew, I'll start with you. It is shocking to see the BBC platform something like this, which would, for the licence fee payers, be absolutely, completely bonkers.
Well, I think, you know, you have to... I think if you're going to have a full picture of what's happened in immigration in this country, hearing from 1 or 2 voices of people who have lived experience of what it's like to be, you know, to have gone through the asylum system and be granted refugee status, I think that's the key. I think they've been granted refugee status, therefore they have the right to live in Britain. Therefore they have the right for their voices to be heard. Of course, they mustn't be the only or the overwhelming voices to be heard, and it sounds like... Obviously, we've been busy talking here, so I haven't seen the whole programme, but it sounds like they were neither the only or the overwhelming voices heard.
OK, Orla, what did you make of it all?
And Zia can give as good as he gets.
I mean, yeah, he can give as good as he gets. But, you know, it's like the Ethiopian guy sexually assaults a girl in Epping, gets, you know, prison sentence, gets released and, well, actually gets released accidentally, goes missing, gets picked up again and then goes on Sky TV, goes on Sky News, and they interview him on Sky News. I mean, are we now, you know, we're literally making these people celebrities. Yeah. They are illegal migrants. They've come... Now, I'm sorry, there seems to be some confusion because he's been given asylum, but then Zia said he was an illegal...
Yeah, I mean, I'm just taking the BBC statement, so, you know, unless the BBC is not true, in which case then they're all going to be in trouble.
Correct, so then we don't know. But, I mean, as far as I could gather, he was an illegal migrant that came over and is sitting in the audience lecturing people in Parliament about... I mean... You just can't but make this stuff up.
This is it, Steve, right? I mean, I remember before the election, before Reform was really the party it is today, the Tories would get an absolute hammering. And I think part of the problem we've had with the press is that they didn't scrutinise Labour enough. And actually, they've now the scrutiny's happening. It's all too little too late, isn't it? But do you think Reform UK is getting it worse than other parties right now?
They are getting it worse. Part of that I understand, because Reform's box office at the moment. They should... One half of the coin is they get many headlines. Quite often they're being covered in the newspapers more than any other party because they're interesting, because it's a fresh point of view that we've not discussed, and whether you agree with it or disagree with it, you often want to hear it. Yeah. The flip side of that coin is you're also going to get more scrutiny. In this one, for the BBC to arrange this, we need to check that they did arrange it, obviously, because boat migrants are notoriously difficult to keep out, so maybe they just got in. But with this, it's a great ambush. That's what it is. It's box office, it's an ambush. Yeah. The problem is... It makes good TV, but you can't construct an ambush the other way around, so it shows bias. Yeah, and to be also, they're demonising Zia, because Zia's sitting there as the only person who is anti-migration, wants to deport these people. He then puts them in the audience.
Tory MP was quite apparently
but then he puts him in the audience and makes an example of this man to make Zia look like the demon.
Pointing directly to Zia, he's just saying, would you deport this man?
Yeah, this man here.
Absolutely
and it's
ludicrous. Anyway, look, coming up, more of that. Listen to this.
The double standards and hypocrisy of the BBC are absolutely astonishing.
Yes, Nigel Farage has unleashed on the BBC. We're going to have all of that just after the break. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition with me, Alex Armstrong.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Rain clearing during the next 24 hours. Showers still remaining in some western areas, but clear spells for many. And under those clear skies, patches of frost and fog will form overnight. We're in a gap between weather systems. This weather front turning up later in the day on Friday will bring some wet weather. And Thursday's wet weather is clearing into the far northeast of the UK, the rain turning more showery. That means in between, clear spells overnight. And under those clear skies with light winds in places, we will see some frost and fog, particularly through parts of the Midlands and southeast England. Those fog patches slow to clear through the morning on Friday, could be tricky on the roads first thing. There'll be showers continuing in the west. That means generally frost-free in the west first thing, but elsewhere, decent sunny spells away from those dense freezing fog patches around the southeast of England. Into the northwest of England, and we've got showers and patchy cloud. Likewise across Scotland, a thicker area of cloud covering much of Aberdeenshire into parts of Caithness, for example, with plenty of showery rain associated with this. That is accompanied by stronger winds, but winds will be lighter through eastern parts of the UK during the day, with plenty of sunny spells. Not too bad at all, but further west, the weather deteriorates once more. The next Atlantic frontal system moving in, bringing wet and windy weather by the afternoon, particularly for Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest. Strengthening winds, coastal gales, and that sweeps through overnight. Again, replaced by plenty of showers and gusty winds, particularly around southern and southwestern coasts. These showers will be heavy and prolonged in places. A very unsettled outlook for the start of the weekend. It doesn't get much better. For Sunday, another band of rain moves through, once again replaced by showers, and low pressure remains in charge for the start of next week.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Joining me now ahead of The Late Show live at midnight is GB News' Ben Leo. Ben, what are you talking about tonight? Do I hear some BBC on your to-do list? Nigel Farage attacking the Beeb?
Yeah, do you know what? I cannot believe what's happened on Question Time tonight. I've been watching the revelations over the past hour or so. I think, and call me far-fetched, I think this is one of the most damning, disgusting, despicable scandals of recent BBC history. And bearing in mind what's been going on at the Beeb in recent years, that says something. Can you imagine any other country, any other nation, welcoming illegal migrants, people who broke into their country illegally, they're not allowed in the country in the first place, they shouldn't be there, into the state broadcaster, the publicly funded broadcaster, for a discussion at the table on immigration policy? It's insane. And when you compare what's going on here in the United States with illegal migration, 2 million illegals have left the country since President Trump took power in January, 600,000 forcibly removed. It is a stark contrast on the directions of travel for both nations. And there's people now on Twitter, people like Zach Polanski, the Green leader, saying that it's an absolute disgrace. People are complaining that there were illegal migrants in the Question Time audience. He's calling it racist. He's saying that this just proves that these people are human beings and they have real stories. Polanski's just tweeted, people are furious about this because when you show those who repeat anti-immigration rhetoric, the real human stories collapse their narratives. The immigrants are people, our friends, our colleagues and family. And this nation is a nation of neighbours that makes Britain great. Sorry, illegal migrants don't make Britain great. They're not our neighbours, they're not our friends. Maybe they will be in 10 years' time if they're somehow granted asylum. In fact, they're mostly all granted asylum. But they are not people who build this country. I just think it's absolutely insane. Apologies for going on a rant. I think it's one of the most disgusting things I've seen from the BBC in recent years.
You're absolutely right, Ben. I think you're absolutely right because this stuff, when we talk about, it's a straw man argument that Polanski's making, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, he's conflating legal and illegal migration. It's a completely different things, right? People are invited into this country legally. That's a very different thing to illegal migrants being put on a national news channel and basically giving as Zia Yusuf just said to me moments ago, a soliloquy with lines on their phone about the ECHR, how great that is, and about the Northern Ireland Protocol. It is nuts, isn't it?
I think it's a grave insult to, first of all, the people of this country, the hard workers who get up at the crack of dawn to feed their kids, they pay their taxes, they graft hard to put food on the table. It's a massive insult to them on behalf of the illegal migrants in that audience. You should have no place at the table. Somebody has tweeted me saying, these people, such as Ben Lea, Zia Yusuf, are deranged. We must hear from the very people we are discussing. No, they should have no place at the table, and no other sane, common sense thinking country anywhere in the world would tolerate that sort of behaviour. So I think it's a grave insult from the migrants themselves, and I think it's an even bigger insult from the BBC. How dare they? How dare they? I think they're despicable. Anyway, elsewhere, on a more lighter note, our Bev Turner has been down to the White House tonight for the turning on of Christmas tree lights. Hooray! Some happiness and joy this side of the pond. So we'll be going live to Bev Turner, who is down at the White House. And also, a bit earlier today, I had the real privilege of speaking to the father of Harry Dunn, the 19-year-old who was mowed down on his motorcycle by the wife of the American diplomat in 2019 near an RAF base in Northampton. There's been a new report that's just come out basically highlighting the failings of the Foreign Office, the terrible way the Dunn family were treated. And I spoke to Harry's father, Tim, really brave guy, courageous guy. They've been campaigning that family for 6 years for justice. I asked if they've now finally got justice. Will they now be able to focus on grieving for their poor boy who they lost? It was a really heart-wrenching interview. I was reduced to a little bit of tears down the face towards the end of it, but I'm looking forward to delivering that to the Late Show Live audience fairly shortly. And then Bev will be back hopefully from the White House if she's not had too many mild wines, and she'll be picking up the rest of the show from 1 a.m.
Well, Ben, I'm really looking forward to watching that interview, and I think, you know, at least on the Christmassy, on the cheery note, it's nice to see Christmas has come back to the White House. Wasn't it Kamala Harris that said, "How dare we speak Merry Christmas," or something along those lines? So good to see some Christmas spirit.
How dare you
back.
say Merry Christmas?
That's
How dare
right.
you say Merry Christmas? And Joe Biden, by the way, it reminded me the other day, Joe Biden on Easter Sunday last year, again, something else that blows my mind, on Easter Sunday last year, used Easter Sunday to make it the Trans Day of Remembrance, or whatever the hell it was, and he had sort of trans people in the White House. Can you believe it? It's all these things, just walking through DC, driving through DC, I'm being reminded every day of the absolute nonsense and the scandal that happened over the past 4 years here in America. I'm afraid to say it's happening in the UK now with the BBC. We're in our Biden era. Will it be in 3-4 years' time? Will we start our Trump-esque era? Who knows?
Well, I certainly hope so, Ben. That's just my personal opinion anyway. Ben, thank you very much. We're looking forward to seeing you on the Late Show Live from midnight. But coming up, cracks emerge in Eurovision as several countries boycott the competition after Israel was confirmed to be participating. Oh, it's going to be heating up. Could we win it? I think this is the silver line. We might win it. Anyway, this is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy rain and strong winds across the eastern end of the Mediterranean, bringing some pretty heavy downpours across parts of Greece in particular during Friday, but also southern parts of Turkey with those gusty winds. Showers again for southern Italy, particularly for Sardinia and Sicily. The east coast of Spain and the Balearics looking largely dry and fine on Friday. And plenty of sunshine across the Canaries. That will continue as we head through the weekend, and things should calm down in Greece during the weekend as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Do you watch Eurovision anymore? Does anyone watch Eurovision?
I do.
Well, yeah, you like it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who is a Eurovision obsessive to the extent that I've never seen such joy as we sat in the, you sat in the park in the week leading up to it, and he'd show me this clip. This stadium was better than that stadium. It's like sort of people obsessed about cricket statistics. Yeah. You know, we've got more capacity at the M&S Bank Arena versus the Malmo Arena or whatever. So I think it's still a bit of fun. Yeah. So I still like it, but I'm a pro-European.
Well, yeah. Oh, God, just give it up, for goodness sake, for what?
I'd scrap it. No, I'm joking.
And I'm an Australian, and I'm also partly Australian, so I've got everything covered.
Yeah,
I've got an Australian passport.
Referendum on where we should leave the Eurovision. Well, that is technically what is going on, actually, because cracks are showing in Eurovision today. Several countries have pulled out of next year's song contest after Israel's participation was confirmed. Here's the list. Ireland, the Netherlands, Spain and Slovenia say they'll boycott the competition after the General Assembly in Geneva today to discuss the future of the competition. Well, the Irish broadcaster, the national broadcaster RTE, said it won't broadcast or take part in the contest, describing its participation as unconscionable given the appalling loss of lives in Gaza. Well, in a statement, the EBU said members had shown clear support for reforms to reinforce trust and protect neutrality. What do we make of this?
Can I tell you what was unconscionable? Yeah. The fact that Ireland was neutral, the Republic of Ireland was neutral in the Second World War, and that Eamon de Valera, who was the Taoiseach, went round personally, not even sending an emissary, but went round personally to the German ambassador to offer his commiserations on behalf of the people of Ireland the death of Herr Hitler. I'll leave that one there.
It's the most bizarre thing, I know.
Yeah, I just feel that Ireland sometimes fall on the wrong side. And
there's a story here saying that because obviously that they're neutral, that when Zelensky went to Dublin, an Irish media outlet, the journalist, reporting that drones targeted him because they haven't got the protection that being in NATO brings you.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, sometimes sitting on the fence for so long, Orla, can end up getting you in trouble. But they aren't sitting on the fence on this one, though. They've gone full in anti-Israel.
Well, they're very anti-Israel, which I find often very, very odd, and I can never actually get an answer any time I ever speak to anyone and ask them why that is. But anyway, the Eurovision is a song contest. Yes. It's a song contest. Why is it so political? And I mean, the only one that's going to really suffer is Ireland, because they've only the only one that's ever won it.
Yes, they win so many times.
Johnny Logan.
Yeah.
The rest are just terrible. But it's a contest.
Including us often.
You just enjoy it. Why does everything have to be so littered with anger and politics?
Well, Steve, this is it, isn't it? It wasn't the whole point of the Eurovision to unite countries together with
bad music.
Put the politics to one side for 10 seconds, but it doesn't seem like it's ever really been able to put politics aside, does it?
I mean, certainly for the last decade or so, it's all been about politics. As Terry Wogan used to say, it's all political voting, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time, and even
that's an excellent impression.
It really is good.
Yeah, it's a little wobble side to side. I think there's a chance that Ireland have decided to pull out just because they don't want to win it again. Remember when they won it like 5 years on the bounce and they bankrupt themselves?
Yes.
They have to host the thing, don't you? So there's a whiff of that in there. If this is your problem, why didn't you boycott it last year when Israel took place? The only problem I have with this as a story is Israel shouldn't be in it any more than Australia should be in it.
Yeah.
It should just be a
Eurovision.
Which muddies the water a bit, your reasons for it. I certainly don't think...
It is a bit weird because it's run by this thing, the European Broadcasting Union, which is the logo that comes up at the beginning, which Australia has to be an associate member of because obviously it ain't in Europe.
So weird, isn't it? So weird. I just think it's boring now.
It's very long.
It's very long. The only good thing that comes out about it is the weirdos that you see on there. Like so many weirdos.
I just want to move on because this other story really caught my eye. Our shortest-serving Prime Minister, Liz Truss, is set to present a new talk show launching tomorrow, which she says will be the home of the counter-revolution. I think that slot might be taken by us, but anyway, take a look at this.
I was blamed for a market crisis that was not my fault. The deep state and their allies in the media and politics tried to destroy me because I challenged their decades-long failure.
Oh, well. Interesting. Steve, what do you make of Liz Truss launching her own show?
Well, do you know what? I've been doing a YouTube streaming thing for the last couple of months, so it's good to see that Liz Truss is copying me. A live streamer. She's basically just a celebrity now, though. You might as well be if you're the shortest-serving PM.
But she can't laugh at herself. That's the problem. She's a celebrity who can't laugh at herself.
Yeah, I've got into some kind of spats with her online, with her supporters, I suppose. But might have tweeted in response to her. I'm not a big fan. I don't think what she did was particularly good, so I don't think that's controversial to say.
It's going to give ammunition for Keir Starmer because he managed to do names checks for every PMQs. I think it looks a bit like a hostage video.
Yes, and she's wearing an orange.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like Whip Guantanamo.
Yes. Exactly.
You know what? I think it will be interesting to hear what she says. Obviously, she's got a lot of insight into that back end of Downing Street. She feels like she was hard done by, Matthew.
I mean, she may feel that, but she wasn't. I mean, I actually work with a lot of people who work with her in my day job, and it gives me more ammunition to take the mickey out of them. So that is a good thing. Look, she crashed the economy. We're still paying a price for it, and she should be hanging her head in shame, not taking to YouTube.
Is Keir Starmer going to launch his own YouTube channel eventually?
Well, we'll all end up on YouTube one day. We all get sacked. Come on, we'll reunite on YouTube when they've had enough of us at GBNews.
Sounds good to me. Orla, what do you think? Keir Starmer launched his own YouTube channel?
It would be very boring. We can, that, so we wouldn't get any viewers. But the
unless he talks about Arsenal, which is the one thing he's interested in. He's really passionate about.
Again, still would be like that.
I would watch it. Yes, be the most boring.
It really would.
I agree.
But again, much like Liz Truss, it's not like she was a character. It's not like it's like it was a Boris and they had a bit of character. The arrogance to think that she can go and actually, have an audience that's going to be interested in what she has to say.
Totally.
I mean, she's only got 44 days to cover.
I wonder if you get more than 44 viewers, though.
Talk about what markets was she visiting? With a famous clip of her.
Oh, yeah. The cheese market, the Chinese, gosh.
I'd love to.
All those favourites. Instead, she'll be deadly serious.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see. What would you think a Keir Starmer YouTube channel would sound like?
Oh, imagine how exciting that would be. The intro would be the clip of him turning on the Christmas lights last year.
5, 4...
that countdown.
The working people, the working public, they deserve to have my YouTube...
He's too busy being a very good Prime Minister.
Do you think he'd read his letter to his son? Do you think he would do it?
I like that.
Oh, did you?
Oh, his son did it.
His son did it, yeah. What teenage boy wants his father reading out his love letters to him? He's 17 years old, is he? And I was like, that would be the last thing...
Or cringe.
He does live in North London, so the son might be quite well.
Maybe there we go. All right, anyway, look, let's get your front pages one more time, shall we? The Independent, Putin personally ordered Novichok attack on Salisbury. The Guardian, Farage hits out as fresh claims of vindictive teenage racism emerge. The Express, fears of worst flu wave to strike NHS this winter. The Telegraph, Lammy breaks ranks on Brexit. The Sun, I'm in therapy over TV acts. The Eye, ignorant to call the Labour Party, the party of welfare, claims Cabinet Minister. The Daily Mail, Farage ain't half hot mum, attack on BBC double standards. The Times, deal to give frozen £8 billion from Russia to Ukraine. Mirror, Dawn's blood on his hands. Can I just very, very briefly on this inquiry stuff? I am so sick of these inquiries. They come up with the most obvious answers that we all knew in the first place. Can we just stop spending money on them? If we're going to have an inquiry in this country in the future, let's just have a proper one that answers questions the public generally want to hear. Honestly, I'm so bored of it all. Anyway, listen, we haven't got time for a discussion. Fortunately, I've just had to rant on that.
We like it.
That's all we've got time for. I'll be back tomorrow morning in Britain's newsroom. Up next is The Late Show, live, hosted by the one and only Ben Leo.
Thank you, Alex. Tonight on The Late Show Live, Bev Turner has had the privilege of going to the White House to turn on their Christmas lights. We'll be going live down there. President Trump's former advisor will be with me discussing all things Farage. Has he been channeling his former boss, President Trump? He seemed quite Trump-esque today in his attack on the BBC. And talking of the Beeb, we'll get stuck into that absolutely ridiculous question time scenario and more. Back in a sec.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Good evening, this is GB News. Up next, it's The Late Show Live with Ben Leo, all the way in Washington, D.C. Ben, what's coming up on your show this evening?
Alex, hello. Of course, we're going to be getting stuck into the BBC situation, the scandal erupting with Question Time tonight. Also, earlier today, Nigel Farage, in his press conference with Reform UK, seemed to, I reckon, channel the spirit of Nigel Farage in the way he dispatched the BBC and their questions about comments he made as a young teenager. Elsewhere, I had the privilege of speaking to Harry Dunn's father. Do you remember him, the 19-year-old killed by an American who was driving on the wrong side of the road? Massive report out today, basically vindicating the family,